A Twitch channel, which is the masked fat man, because I've been wearing my masks. But yeah, I've done some Twitch videos because YouTube's become so toxic recently. I just thought, you know, I'll go somewhere where people are a little bit more liberal and the TOS is actually enforced better over on Twitch. Because I'm quite a fan of Twitch now. I initially was a bit, but then I started watching Destiny videos, and then I've started watching a lot of other streamers on there, and it reminds me quite a bit of the olden days of Blip.tv in because everything's done at a higher standard, you don't get shit videos. You know, it'd be quite funny if the Kumite ever attempted to go there, because they'd be gone within like one stream, I think. Or Andy Wolski makes me laugh. On Twitter, he seems to have very big balls about how important he is. You know, if he was banned from Twitter or he had strikes against his channel, he'd be gone in no time. But, you know, I find Andy Wolski the most sort of dishonest person anyway. I just think that he's not he's just a complete fake. You know, there's nothing genuine about him. He just seems like he will literally say or do anything for super chat money. It's like all this shit where he was demonetised and he was all bragging, oh, it's going to be the gloves off now and all that. I'm like, so if the gloves are off, then and you're just sort of promoting right-wingers, isn't that being extremely dishonest? I just think he's like a piece of shit. You know, I've never really been very impressed with his interview skills. He seems to be, you know, it's like Roaming Millennials, another one who I'm just like, you know, what's the point in being an interviewer if you're not actually going to interview? And Dave Rubin's another, that they just softball people, particularly on the right, and you're like, well, why are you not pressing the issue? Why are you sort of pussyfooting around? But yeah, they're just the most dishonest people going. Playing me Star Trek music because I'm playing a Star Trek game. Skills. Crew stations. Oh, fuck. My favourite of the Star Trek soundtrack is actually Search for Spock. It's got as James Horner's music's probably my favourite film music, but that one is just sort of like a whole level above all the other soundtracks. Even the what the oh, you, I'm gonna go back to Starbase, bollocks this. Transwarp Soul System Station. I need to buy another ship. I'm gonna get a steam runner because the current one I've got is a bit shit as a ship, unfortunately. Oh, that's pretty. What model? What looks like it's like a Breen ship. Or it might be, is it Klingon? I can't tell. Not be moving out the system, so. No, it might be a Riemann ship. There is a visual screw up on this game. I only noticed it the other day, where in the intro video they've got a Galaxy class ship looking bigger than the space dock, even though in some of the stories, I can't remember what one it is, I know the characters in it are called Binars, but the Enterprise D fits inside the space dock. It's not bigger.
Security teams, report to Documentaries 6.
Been meaning to buy one of those.
Security teams, report to Documentaries 6.
I want that one. I don't want the Ulysses. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm pressing the wrong button. Oh, you silly idiot. There we go.
Transporter technician to room 46.
Let's... crew stations.
The shuttle to Saturn will leave in 0830 hours.
Oh. Customize. Oh, I've done my shuttle already. Ah. There you go, little ship. Do, 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 yeah, got my little science ship. Oh, let's have a look at interiors. I'll go for a future. Yep. Right. Return to the ship. The only thing this game's really missing is the random encounter thing, where there's like giant alien space creatures. Look how tiny I am next to that. Oh my god. Water sector. A birth class, the first time you see one is in the Search for Spock, which was actually unarmed science vessel. But let's have a look on. Aha! See how tough this little ship is. And it got destroyed by the first appearance also of a Klingon bird of prey. Ah. This is from the search for Spock. This is where the Enterprise first meets the Klingon bird of prey, and you know, for some mad reason they decide to activate the weapons but not the shields. Oh, you bastard, it's gone. Oh, you... It's annoying because these random encounters, they really up your... yeah, okay, whatever. Whatevs. The Red Dwarf Fleet. They're all Dave Listers, not Arnold Rimmers. Tiny. There's a load of missions on Starfleet Academy where you use an Birth class, because it is basically just a science vessel. But most of those missions are ones where you use cunning and diplomacy to win through. You're not sort of blasting away like you would with something like a sovereign class. But that I like that particularly in that game, because Starfleet Academy I actually think is probably one of the best Star Trek games ever, because it felt more like a TV show than a sort of game. Change camera. Enable astrometry. So that makes things a lot easier. You know what bloody sector you're going through. No, my luck, I'll get all the way to this fucker and then it'll disappear. Come on! This is actually the most disappointing part of the game.
Scientists are adapting Borg technology to suit their own needs.
Can't
a Federation crew caught in an impossible situation
like
fights to survive,
and visit the
but
bridge,
help may not arrive in time.
Which I think really, if they were going to make the game better,
in their
you'd
anguish,
be able to plot
the
your
Romulans
course.
could cause a greater tragedy than even they imagine.
You could plot your course and then you could just travel to your position and walk around a ship, you know, checking on your crew members, which is pretty much one of the main things I really like about Star Trek, but unfortunately they don't seem to ever put in the games. You know, I'd like to go to my, well, I know Birth class wouldn't have a 10 forward because it's too small, but you know, being able to chat with a crew and maybe have lunch or something, that's, you know, I'm sure there's a way of doing it, because the Sims, you've got the same sort of tech concepts, you know, of AI and all that. There is a PC game called Space Colony that has elements of the Sims, where you've got to micromanage your characters, but also you've got to maintain a space colony on different environments, and some of the environments are very hostile. You know, with asteroids hitting the buildings all the time and having to go and repair them. But you've also got to micromanage so that people there aren't just working all the time, not getting any sleep or not getting any food, or, you know, even just conversation. I just wish they had that in this sort of game. It'd sort of be useful for filling in these long pauses between bloody systems, which seems to make no sense to me whatsoever. They should sort of have it like a instant thing, but you might have to do system jumps because the system core is overheating, you know. So that's that and the structural integrity field, because the reason why something like warp 10 is, yeah, and it's gone. It's gone. You fucking bastards! Fuck you. It's the last one I'm going to have a go at. I can transwarp to it. No. Oh, you absolute bastards. I'm going to transwarp to Earthbase then. Yeah, the limitations of ships where they can't travel at warp 10 is mainly because the structural integrity field on would rip the nacelles off the ship. Such a tiny little ship. This is Star Trek 5, because they cleverly, with Star Trek 5, to save money, they just basically redid the Star Trek 1 soundtrack. Jerry Goldsmith did do some alterations to it, but it is pretty much just the same piece of music, just accelerated a little bit, and they added a few improvements. And of course it's the Next Generation music. I'm mixed on Star Trek 5. A lot of people say it's the worst one, and I'm like, well, it's not really. The worst Star Trek movie is the reboot series, the second one, Into Darkness, which I absolutely hate that movie with a passion. What the fuck? Oh great, it won't let me take part in a galactic encounter. Oh, you son of a bitch! Fuck you! Ah. Piss off then, I'll have to go to... Right, let's transwarp back to fucking Sol System. And I can't do that because I've got to wait 12 minutes. Fuckers! Let's just go to fucking Vulcan. bollocks to it. Yeah, Star Trek 5, the biggest problems with it aren't really the script. The biggest problems is budget. That a lot of it looks quite cheap, which is a shame really, because you actually read the original script version, it was much better, and it didn't have all of the sort of added on bullshit that they had to add on just to make the time up. Like all that stuff with Uhura doing the veil dance wasn't... I think that was a spur of the moment idea that they came up with. Where's Vulcan gone? Let's have a look. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the Andorian homeworld, oddly, is very cold. It's like ice world. I'm in Vulcan, come on. Show me the goods. There we go. And Vulcan's very hot. Because they really added to the mythos of
Greetings. Thank
Vulcan
I believe that
a lot in Star Trek Enterprise, which I really liked.
Starfleet shuttlecraft, this is Vulcan Orbital Control. You are cleared to land at the requested coordinates.
This music, of course, is from Star Trek 6, which is considered one of the best. It's actually my favourite of the original crew Star Trek movies, mainly because it blended the drama with comedy and poignancy. And I actually think it's the best because it used the characters in the story well. Everyone got a moment in Star Trek 6. It also had a very good real baddie. You know, with General Chang. General Chang's whole thing was that he wanted the peace not to last.
Welcome
Because,
to Vault. Do you have any questions? This is ridiculous.
He wanted to die in battle. He didn't want to be relegated to sort of
Peace and law. Do you seek knowledge
retirement.
of the ancestors? Many years ago, do you seek knowledge of the ancestors? Centuries ago, the Vulcans were creatures of it. Do you seek knowledge of the ancestors? I will permit it if you will pledge to...
Oh, that was a high priest. Oh, done it. Well, this bloke's not even real. He's
excellent.
He's actually species 8472 in disguise, because they can disguise themselves as human beings. What's going on? What is it? Oh, well, come on, you stupid bugger. But particularly the whole Rurapente stuff in Star Trek 6 is really what separates it from other Star Trek movies, in that it goes to lots of different worlds and the characters actually develop, and Kirk actually evolves through the movie. He originally starts off in hating Klingons and not trusting them because one of them killed his son. But by the end of the movie, he sees that, you know,
I need to...
that his actions are what is important. In the grander scheme of things, you can't live with hate. You have to look beyond yourself to the bigger picture. And it's a very good film. It's very well made as well, unlike particularly the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, that they look so... Ugh. Go to the chart system. You know, I love all of the original 1979 to 2001. I think it was 2005, 2006. Or I could be wrong, not sure. Basically from... Oh shit.
You have a foul shape changer aboard your ship. Do you doubt my word?
Oh shit. Yeah, the original series and Next Generation movies, I like all of them, but you know, the ones I dislike the most though are the J.J. Abrams movies, because just apart from Star Trek Beyond, they're not very good. Star Trek Beyond, because it had a different director, and I think he was a fan of Star Trek, and he wasn't trying to make Star Wars. It was a much better movie. I mean, it had an actual link to particularly Enterprise era Star Trek, in that the ship they used in the end, it was a Mako ship, and the Makos appeared in Enterprise. I just thought it was a much better movie than any of the others, and also the actors seemed less sort of highly strung. You know, there's that brilliant scene with Spock and McCoy. I'll beam down after I've done that. Man's got to pick up gaseous anomalies. beam down. I saw Star Trek Generations actually at the cinema, and it is a weird movie. It's sort of like it's a good and shit movie at the same time. It's a bit like the last Star Wars movie, in that, you know, The Last Jedi was good and shit at the same time, and it really, all the scenes with Mark Hamill in it were really good, and I really liked them, particularly that bit at the end where he's fighting Kylo Ren. But then you had all the other stuff that, you know, particularly all that stuff with Finn when they went to the gambling world, which was so it felt more like something that George Lucas would have made than sort of, you know, the new sort of rebooted Star Wars. But I am glad that they didn't make it like sort of Empire Strikes Back. I did have this big fear because, you know, the first Star Wars movie was pretty much just a rip-off of A New Hope. You know, the plot especially. I did like the jokes, and I do like how the new Star Wars films have got a lot more humour in them. And not crap humour like Jar Jar Binks stepping in dog shit. You know, it's like actual proper humour.
Flanking damage detected.
First Contact. That's the one Star Trek film I've watched the most times at the cinema. I watched First Contact 6 times at the cinema. Though I can understand why people nowadays slightly malign it, because it's not really much like a Star Trek movie. It's sort of like an action movie, but and it really did reboot the whole Star Trek franchise, as you can see with my uniform. But you know, and it really upped the gear that Deep Space Nine going into the full Dominion War. There were even books of Enterprise Dominion War which were quite good. I can remember reading one that had the Gorns in it, and yeah, it was pretty good stuff. And it's also First Contact's the one movie that really interconnects with
You need to be.
the TV show quite a lot, you know, because
Such emotion on your face. I see now my deception has been exposed. Pity. Capturing the abbot so we could replace him as well would have been beneficial.
because Star Trek Enterprise
We will prevail.
particularly was really interlinked
You
with
are
First
weak,
Contact.
and the weak shall
Well, James
perish.
Cromwell, I think it is, or Cornwell, or something like that. who played Zephyrin Cochrane. He appeared in like the pilot episode of Enterprise, and also there was references to the events in the Borg story that Enterprise had. There you go, Species 8472. Which was the very first Star Trek fully digital character, because before that they'd mainly used models or prosthetics on people's faces.
Bothersome creatures! Why should I trouble myself with such insignificant beings when the Klingons will do my work for me?
Way of walking.
Prepare for battle!
Yes,
there is a group of Starfleet officers behind me. One of them is the foul shapeshifter. I'm returning to the ship. Don't let them leave this planet alive.
Don't question me.
Yes, sir.
And of course, Star Trek Insurrection, which is another mixed bag. It's a bit like Star Trek 5 in it's good and shit at the same time. Really, the film versions of The Next Generation weren't really well done at all, mainly because the series was so good. It was very hard to sort of recapture that magic that the Next Generation show had. This is when we get our arse handed to us, because the ship we're going to be fighting is an organic ship, and the organic ships are extremely powerful. Right.
Warning, ship is under attack.
Fuckity fuck. The one really good thing about Star Trek Insurrection is the soundtrack. That it had probably the best soundtrack of all the Star Trek movies. Someone throw me a bone here. Oh, at last. know, there are good things in Star Trek Insurrection. It's just that they're not. There's more bad than good, and it's really what, you know. There's stupid things in it as well, like why the aliens in it didn't have prosthetics. They look like human beings, and I was like, oh god, why can't you just give them something on their nose? It's not gonna completely ruin the effect. Because it was mainly the original series that had aliens who looked exactly like human beings, because they didn't have the budget to make all this one. Yeah, they couldn't make. Well, they could barely do Spock's ears, you know, prosthetic-wise. So they had lots of planets with, and they'd reuse sets on a lot of these alien planets, because of, you know, the studio would have on the lot, like they'd done a cowboy film or something like that, and they'd have this area spare, so they'd have a story set on a planet with cowboys, or a planet set with Nazis, or small-time hoodlums. It's just it was a budgetary saving thing. Oh, I'm going to pull away like crazy, just get hammered. Star Trek Nemesis' biggest problem was its director really didn't know what he was doing, and he made a film that sort of I can understand it was an interesting idea, particularly Shinzon being a clone of Picard. That question, what if Picard had sort of grown up in the life that Shinzon had? But it was just that a lot of it was very overblown. There's scenes where you're actually a bit bored. And then there was the stupid things like them having a car, and then just sort of bringing in B4 without any real explanation of who he is and how, you know, there was no suggestion in the canon of Dr. Sung that he made 3 versions of Data.
Warning, ship is under attack.
You know, I was always quite a fan of lore. You know, the concept of building an AI, but the AI isn't complete and actually has a hatred for his creator. I like that idea. It's very Frankenstein. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But really, a creator should have some responsibility for the creation. Ooh. You bugger. But also the ending seemed to be needlessly killing off a character who I really like, you know, with Data. It was very much like the last episode of Enterprise. They killed Trip, and I was like, why did you have to kill Trip? What was the point of that? You know, it's very sad that that was the last episode of like a period that was like, I think that's about 13, 14 years. From like the Next Generation to the final episode of Enterprise, and just to end on such a shit story.
This is Captain LaForge of the USS Challenger. Glad to see we made it here in time to lend you a hand. Perhaps you'll return the favor someday. LaForge out.
Up now, I want to get some more of those. It's also quite sad that this was the last soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith, who actually died whilst they were making it. Because his soundtracks always had a lot of energy to them. You know, even his soundtrack for Alien is so sort of memorable. And he was always open to use different like instruments to produce a mood. You know, stuff that, and he was open using synthesizers and any other sort of method for producing sound. It's why all of his soundtracks, you know, are memorable, because they don't sound, they're not like nowadays where a lot of soundtracks, particularly Marvel movies, all sound exactly the same. Even though the last really good soundtrack I've got on digital was the soundtrack to Thor Ragnarok, which really did have a lot of experimental music in it.
The ambassador was an Undine?
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Return to the solar system.
Reaching each milestone will unlock additional bonuses or bridge officer training manual. Your inventory has... You can purchase common items from the replicator. You can also sell items by using Recycle, and reclaim previously sold items using Retrieve.
Yeah, the first Star Trek movie isn't very good. The rebooted ones, I'm talking about J.J. Abrams movies. I didn't like really anything that they did with the Enterprise. Didn't really like how they sort of trivialised Kirk, and particularly stuff like the Kobayashi Maru test, and you know, this is real sort of. It was just so badly handled. Everything seemed sort of trivial, and
This mission briefing is classified. I've been...
yeah, the whole stuff with altering sort of Star Trek canon, just to sort of, you know, and it made Kirk, it made a new Kirk who wasn't anything like the Kirk from the original show, because that one was altered by certain things that had happened in his life, like he was part of a colony that members of his family were killed on, and also there was an incident where Kirk came into contact with an energy being that sort of turned him from being a sort of big macho man to being humble, that he couldn't do everything. Interesting facts about the original series music. Originally it had words to it, and they got rid of them because not because they sounded incredibly cheesy, but they got rid of it so they could sell it to overseas markets, because no one wants to watch a show with subtitles taking up a large percentage of the screen. I'm half and half about the original show. There are episodes that are good, but there's a lot of crap. You know, the third season of the original series is almost unwatchable because it's really naff. Quite funny, when I was a very small kid and I first watched Star Trek because it was on BBC Two, the end titles had a creature from, like, well, puppet from the third pilot of the original series. People don't understand that
if you hadn't shown up when there are crystals on some
there
of the
was a oh Christ, what was it? There was the cage, which they later recycled the episode to reuse for a two-parter story. that didn't go down very well. But, you know, they were offered to do a second pilot, which was Where No Man Has Gone Before, which had some of the characters from Star Trek in it, but not all of them. And then the third story, the Corbomite Maneuver, I think it's called, that was actually the proper pilot to the show, which was actually repeated whenever the show would be sold overseas, and it had this creature in it that looked really alien and evil, and I used to cover my face with a cushion whenever it was on screen at the end titles. It used to freak me out because it had reptilian eyes. I used to have nightmares about the TV show V back in the 80s, because they'd have these scenes where you actually saw the aliens they'd mimic human beings, but they weren't. They were reptiles.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
When I was a kid, BBC Two, after Neighbours, they'd have science fiction shows like Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica. For a while, Doctor Who each year to celebrate Doctor Who, they'd show episodes, but they didn't show enough of them, in my opinion. Really, the BBC should be showing classic Doctor Who in those gaps between seasons of the new show. But they don't. The BBC are weird like that. They'll stick on repeats of fucking Bargain Hunt, but they won't put on repeats of classic shows that are really good. Admittedly, some TV is dated, you know. That it's one of the reasons why they won't show stuff like Monty Python's Flying Circus or Fawlty Towers, because there are, well, I don't usually use the word, but problematic stuff on it, particularly using things like the N-word and all that. I'm not edgy enough to use that word, mainly because I think it's a really horrible word, and it's used as a way of making people, dehumanising people, treating them like animals, property. It's just, you know, I don't like being called a faggot because, well, for a start, I'm bisexual, not full on gay. But it's a horrible word from the Old Testament, and it's just it's one of those things that it's completely unnecessary to use it. I've had arguments with gay friends and said we shouldn't use that word. It's a horrible word. It doesn't serve any purpose. Queer, I don't mind, but
we're in your debt. This is enough to live here
that's
to get our warp engines
using
restarted.
a terminology that is
we'll set course for
to put
Starbase
people
157.
down and using it back against the person who's using it. But
If you want to go
faggot
into the
is
Pulsing
just-
Nebula,
it's
your engines will
horrible
need a boost.
terminology.
I recommend you visit Lackey 3. The Gorn drove out the Federation miners there and took over a decalithium processing facility. It's only fair that you take some of our crystals back.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target shields have failed.
So if you use you got to position the ship right, but if you use a tractor beam, it eliminates their ability to turn. So if you've got an enemy that have torpedo launchers in the front, they can't hit you because they can't line up the torpedo launchers.
Ship is under attack.
Use fixed hits if you're playing player versus player. I've already done it about 3 times, and each time I got my arse handed to me because I had a stage 2 ship against a Romulan Scimitar and a Cavort class Klingon battle cruiser, and then a Defiant class Federation ship, which is really unfair. I had a really stupid argument earlier on Twitter with a bloke who was bashing on about communism is terrible and capitalism is wonderful, and I was like, that's just bullshit. Communism had its problems, yes, but you know, the Russians were the ones who got objects into space. They got the first living creature into space, Laika. It was a dog, and then they got the first man into space. You know, this idea that they're and the richest country in the world now is a communist country in China.
Ship is under attack. Target shields have failed.
You know, you can't pretend that America, who are pretty much living on credit cards, it is sort of the great. When they say when a person says, "Oh, America's the greatest country in the world," you know they've never been anywhere but America. And it's not the greatest country in the world. The greatest country in the world that wins awards for being the happiest country in the world is Denmark. The reason why is Denmark's got a much higher tax rate, but the taxes are used to help the populace. You get a lot more for your taxation. You know, I'd be happy paying more taxes if I got more out of it.
Warning, ship is under attack. Target shield has failed.
3 birds of hardly fair. Also,
Ship is under attack.
oh. Oh shit, a mine. Oh, you swine! So odd, this mission's different from the game I was playing before. So maybe it's you get different missions for different character choices. Because my other two games are an engineer and a science officer. This is Captain Kubrick. I was just sat. I was sat looking at the screen, trying to think of a name. I just looked up at my wall of DVDs, and there was The Shining, and I thought, oh wow, I've never heard of a Captain Kubrick. Might as well have a Captain Kubrick. The best Star Trek series of them all, Deep Space Nine. It's the one show that hasn't aged badly. A lot of the other Star Trek shows do look a little bit dated.
Enemy targets on sensor.
And also, what was brilliant about Deep Space Nine, opposed to a lot of the other Trek shows, is as well as having a continual story that was interesting, it'd have single stories that were good as well. One of my favourites ever, well, it's my favourite Star Trek story, was one called The Visitor, where
well done.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
We've decrypted some of...
oh Christ. Jake Sisko's basically, it's a Jake Sisko based story where his father gets knocked into subspace in an accident next to the warp drive, and he keeps reappearing every couple of years as the Visitor, and it's very emotional, especially the ending. I well up every time I watch it. It's got Tony Todd plays the elder Jake Sisko, and just it is probably the best Star Trek episode ever. My other favourite Star Trek episode I'll watch time and time again is the Next Generation story, the Drumhead, which, particularly now with what's going on around the world with witch hunting,
You can train your bridge officer. You can train your bridge officer in a new ability. Then select your bridge officer can only have one active ground and one active space ability per rank. Once learned, a bridge officer will permanently select the desired ability slot.
I'll stick with my high yield torpedoes. Thank you very much. Yeah, the drumhead is just, it is the best of Star Trek because it covers a subject that is real, witch hunts and paranoia, and it's got my favourite one story character in a character called Simon Tarsis, who is a medical officer who lies about his heritage. He claims his grandfather was Vulcan and he was a Romulan, and it sort of destroys his career. But you know, I always wish that there was like a follow-up story where you found out that he became something, you know, else. Read an interesting thing online. Supposedly, it's Massachusetts is banning the book To Kill a Mockingbird and some works by Mark Twain, and you know, all of the anti-SJW people are all going rah, 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 about how, oh, this is a terrible thing, and I'm like, well, have you ever read Harper Lee's version of the story? I think a lot of people seem to think that it is like the book, like the film, and it's not. The book version isn't a courtroom drama. The book version is completely from the children's point of view, That's why it's very popular, because it's looking at the world through the eyes of a child. And it deals with racism, yes, but the language in it, even the like noble white man who is defending the black guy still calls him the N-word, and they use the negroid word and things like that. It's just like, really, the language. Personally, I think maybe just an update of the book to tone down some of the language work. It's not necessary to. You can call the character in Tom Sawyer Jim. You don't have to put the N-word on the front. But you know, you get so many people pretend that, you know, they're anti things just for attention now. It's why I don't watch any of these people who like devote their time to attacking SJWs anymore, because what's the point? None of them have got any original ideas. They're all copycats. I was quite shocked. I watched a debate between Destiny and Dankula, who's this Scottish bloke who basically got into trouble by training his dog to salute the Nazis, and he said some stuff that was a bit
12 cases of Sarian brandy, 2 exterior mounted decorative flumes, 1 gross of self-sealing stem balls.
Klingons along the border of the sector, redeploying tachyon sensors to pick up cloaked Klingon vessels.
Yeah, Mark Twain's stories are good, but really, they're more sort of as a mockery of things like patriotism and things like that. You know, very famously, Teddy Roosevelt really disliked Twain, said that he was an anti-American because of his viewpoint over the Philippines. And Twain was very anti-imperial. I'm surprised that, you know, well, probably the reason why the alt-right idiots who are screaming and shouting about this, the anti-SJWs, they haven't, that they hear sound like something is going to be stopped because certain people find it insulting. And that's really their point. They haven't actually read any Mark Twain. They're just sort of angry. And yeah, the whole, well, it's this whole addiction to drama nowadays that all of these sad streaming wankers live off. You know, you can't just not agree with someone on a subject. You've got to be sort of completely behind their position. and it's really pathetic. It's unrealistic as well. It's very trivialised and very short-sighted view of. Well, they don't act like adults at all. You know, I call the skeptic community, or septic community, as they're more. I can't remember who said it. Some other YouTubers call it the septic community, but I call them the toxic playground because they act like children. You know, there's a brilliant video by Thunderfoot about. Well, it's not really about just one thing. He was talking on multiple things because he hasn't been very well lately, and he's just been sitting watching YouTube and picking up on stuff like the idiot brigade in the skeptic community with their Kilroy event. And the Kilroy event, I knew from the start would sort of backfire because it didn't have a single position. It was, you know, why would people want to travel all the way to sort of Arizona just to hear fucking Sargon talking like a dickhead? Yeah, well, it's like this MythCon thing. They reckon that there might not be a MythCon this year because so many people who were made upset by just having the fucking idiot Sargon, you know, all that shit, that I wouldn't rate you stuff. And it's people don't want to go to somewhere where there's going to be vials of trolling scumbags as the audience. So, you know, it might sort of become KekCon or whatever, but all of the serious speakers won't go to them. You know, Aaron Ra has come out and said that, and Matt Dillahunty, they've said that unless there is a complete change, I'm never going to appear on one of those stages again. And I don't really blame him because Matt Dillahunty did a brilliant video after the MythCon event where he spoke about when he talked to Sargon, and Sargon had no real explanation to his positions, that, you know, particularly this gibberish that all feminism is evil when it's not. There are loony elements to feminism, yes. I've come across sort of man-hating feminists as well online, but not. My sister's a feminist, but she's not a misandrist. You know, this idea that the most extreme elements of a group are what makes up the whole is just ludicrous. It's also very lazy. You know, the worst thing about Carl Benjamin is, well, this was pointed out by H. Bomber Guy, that he doesn't actually read anything. He'll quote stuff from the web page, but he hasn't actually read the whole web page. Ian Miles Chong's exactly the same. He'll post any old shit. He was posting about the Snowball Earth yesterday, and he said, oh, well, here's something that will make the flat earthers look stupid. And I'm like, yeah, but the Snowball Earth actually happened, you fucking retard. I even... Well, it's a waste of time because he's probably muted me because he's a complete coward who won't actually answer for anything he says. I put links to the actual facts about the Snowball Earth, that it was an event that happened when the volcanic activity in the Earth reduced down to 0 for a period, and it had a climate change effect in that there wasn't enough carbon in the atmosphere to produce the rudimentary greenhouse effect that you need to sustain the temperature across the entire globe. Oh, I missed something. Maybe I missed something down here.
Flanking damage detected. Crystal shield losing power.
You know, I can accept people's different political philosophies, but when they're just utter liars who will purposely put out information that's completely inaccurate, I haven't got any time for them. You know, if you claim to be a journalist and you're not actually printing truth, you're printing lies, then fuck you. You're yeah, if you're not actually being a journalist, you're just being a propagandist. I haven't got any time for you. Besides, Ian Miles Chong, his whole sort of background has been being a backstabber, switching sides, lying about people, and it's just a horrible piece of shit, really, that I have no time for. You know, when you're lying and the lie is so obvious that it's a lie, yet you keep repeating it, I haven't got any time for you, I'm afraid. That's just stupid. Oh, heck. Oh.
Enemy targets on sensor. Enemy targets on sensor.
No, you screwed it up. You you stupid. Ah! Silly cow.
Ship is under attack. Shields have failed.
Right, this shit must be made of fucking cast iron. Was it another species enforcer? Come on!
Aided us in battle, and I respect your bravery. In honor of your actions against the Undine, we will not destroy you today. Next time, you will not be so fortunate.
Engage! Oh. Well, I'm going to return to the Sol system.
Nice work out there. You're making quite a name for yourself in Starfleet.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Starfleet has lost contact with the Federation science station in the Kasei system.
Browse your commodities. What we got? We can sell. Don't need Ferengi food. Oh great, we've got some disruptors. We'll use them. I'll sell that. Let's see what they offer sale. Oh. Oh yeah, I was going to transwarp back to... Oh wait, spend some skill points. Oh. We're going to have to stream in a minute because I've got to be up at 4 again. Let's just go onto the station.
must report to Admiral Quinn's office upon arrival. The shuttle to Saturn will leave in 0830 hours. Security teams, report to docking bay 6.
Requires Lieutenant Booger. I'm not at the right level yet. Oh, that's the one I want. Maybe later. Anyway, I'm going to end it now because... Oh, hello, I like that. Very colourful. Space. Oh, there's someone disappearing. Just having a look at the clears. Right, yeah, I'm going to end it now because I need to go to bed. See you later.